Hello and welcome. My name is Margit Bantowsky. I'm a Trillium awakening teacher and also a transformative life coach. Trillium awakening is a spiritual path that integrates consciousness, embodiment, and relatedness or mutuality. Today's topic of inquiry is deep surrender, going beyond green lighting. And for those of you who are not familiar with green lighting, it is one of the core practices, if not the core practice, of the Trillium Awakening path. And basically what green lighting means is to allow ourselves to be with, witness, hold, even to be as we are in the moment, to be with however we show up in the moment, and also being with life as it is, as it shows up in the moment. If I were to summarize the process of whole being realization or awakening on the Trillium path in a gesture, it would be going from this, resisting life, resisting myself, resisting life, to this, allowing life, allowing myself, allowing life to be. It doesn't mean that allowing is permission to cause harm, to not take responsibility. It simply means allowing reality to be as it is, with consciousness and awareness, and ideally with some compassion, so that life can evolve. Without consciousness and compassion, we tend to stay pretty stuck. So my all hearts on deck sittings tend to be for people who've been in the work for quite a while, ideally people who've already had what we call whole being realization, who are pretty grounded in the knowledge of the way in which they're infinite and finite simultaneously, in the way in which we're separate but not separate, the way in which we're unified with the whole field of being. And the reason for this is that in that recognition of whole being realization, there's a core relaxation and wellness of being, which allows us paradoxically to encounter life even more deeply, encounter our personal shadow and our collective shadow more deeply. And in terms of awakened activism, this encountering of our shadow, of our unconscious conditioning, is critical because it tends to drive the bus when we're not aware of it. The more we can be aware of and integrate and heal the conditioning, the more our authenticity is liberated to respond to the world in compassionate and creative and courageous ways. So, in Trillium Awakening right now, we currently tend to focus on before awakening, and then the awakening process, and the integration after awakening. And some of the teachers are starting to map some of the territory of further awakening developments years after having whole being realization. One of the teachers that has done, I think, a pretty remarkable job of this is Ted Strauss, who has come up with something called the I conscious model of human development. He and a colleague, Carol, spent years looking at psychological maps of human development and spiritual maps of human development, and integrated them into a cohesive framework that truly, in my experience, is one of the most comprehensive maps of human development on multiple dimensions. So it looks at consciousness, it looks at our uniqueness, our personality, our, selfness. mental dimension of being, emotional dimension of being, and embodied, our body, physical dimension of being, and maps them as we go from childhood to adolescence to, the traditional human development of getting successful in our collective culture. And then they continue to map into spiritual development. So the whole map has 15 stages. And whole being realization is stage 9 of 15 stages. That first phase of 1 to 9 is the separate phase. So it's where we're separate from life and all the developmental stages that progress towards that threshold at stage 9, which is whole being realization, which brings us into a middle phase called unity, where we recognize ourselves as non-separate from all of life. But interestingly, it doesn't stop there. At stage 13, there's what he calls a singular stage, where the subject-object differentiation gets really soft and life becomes more of a flow where we are actually being lived by life rather than the self having so much activity. So right now, I'm in that middle phase of unity. I recognize my non-separate nature. And there's more flow, but there's still this quality of self that's kind of asserting itself and being, getting in there and rolling up her sleeves. What I'm noticing in my own progression, so it's been about 8 years for me since I've had my whole being realization at the point of this recording. It appears to me that I'm hovering around what in Ted's model calls the stage 12. And I want to read you something from that place. Toward the end of stage 12, questions about the meaning of surrender become huge. The universe will shake you again and again as if to say, are you really, really, really ready to surrender, even to this? This doesn't mean that you give up your sense of what is right or what you should do. It only means that you're being asked to give up resistance to all of what is, including how you're showing up. At this stage, you'll be challenged with everything you wished you could control until you realize you can't control life. Resistance is futile. For those of you who are into Star Trek, you've heard that before. And you'll never win an argument with reality. And so this is from Ted and Carol's book, I Conscious. You can find that. It's available. So today's inquiry around deep surrender, to me, is an exploration about what that stage 12 is asking of us. It's really what I'm experiencing in it is an intensification of the surrender, of the necessity of the surrender, right? There's part of me that's reluctant to surrender, but there's actually nothing else that I can do. And I'm being asked to surrender in 2 ways that I'm noticing, and I'm sure for everybody it's different, and it'll be interesting to see how it is for you. One way is, I feel like life is a dog and I'm a rag doll in its mouth, and it's just kind of shaking me, shaking the resistance out of my system. And one of the dimensions is in the world, the way in which I resist the way the world is. So for example, when the George Floyd murder videos came out, it shook me to the core. And it wasn't just the surface level of green lighting saying, oh, wow, this is hard to bear. It was it was to the core. It forced me to reckon with the part of me that really, really, really didn't want to admit that this does happen. Yeah, I've been doing anti-oppression work for 20 years. Yeah. And there's still that place in me that didn't want to see it, didn't want to admit that this is really, really happening. And so the deep surrender at that point for me was just allowing my entire organism to be shattered by the truth of it, by not turning the gaze away, by looking at it directly and being shattered, being willing to be shattered. It's that level of surrender. I can do that ecologically too. Anything that my heart aches for, allowing that shattering. So to me, the word shattering fits. I don't know what it'll be for you. And then the other level, so that's being shattered by the external world. The other level of shattering or deep surrender that seems to be being called for in my organism is the way that I am reluctant to admit my impact on others. The primary way that's been showing up for me is in my marriage, close relationships. I've had some wicked reckonings in this past couple months, and having to really see the suffering that I have caused my partner and letting my heart be shattered by witnessing his suffering at my hands. And I can do the same thing socially, back out in the world. What's my role in the harm that I caused? So what I'd like to do is invite us into a series of questions. So for those of you who are watching this video as a video, I'll ask a question and you can push pause and give yourself time to journal around it. So there'll be 3 questions, and the 4th and 5th questions will actually be woven into a guided meditation. So have your pen and paper ready for the first 3, and then I'll invite you to close your eyes for a deeper inquiry for questions 4 and 5. So, you know what? Hey, let me do a poem first. Let's do a poem first, and then we'll do the questions. It's one of my favorite poems, and it's just become more raw and real for me. It's called Call Me by My True Names by Thich Nhat Hanh. Do not say that I'll depart tomorrow, because even today I still arrive. Look deeply. I arrive in every second, to be a bud on a spring branch, to be a tiny bird with wings still fragile, learning to sing in my new nest, to be a caterpillar in the heart of a flower, to be a jewel hiding itself in a stone. I still arrive in order to laugh and to cry, in order to fear and to hope. The rhythm of my heart is the birth and death of all that are alive. I am the mayfly, metamorphosing on the surface of the river. And I am the bird, which, when spring comes, arrives in time to eat the mayfly. I am the frog swimming happily in the clear pond. And I'm also the grass snake, who, approaching in silence, feeds itself on the frog. I am the child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks. And I am the arms merchant, selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I am the 12-year-old girl, refugee on a small boat, who throws herself into the ocean after being raped by a sea pirate. And I am the pirate, my heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. I am a member of the Politburo, with plenty of power in my hands, and I am the man who has to pay his debt of blood to my people, dying slowly in a forced labor camp. My joy is like spring, so warm it makes flowers bloom in all walks of life. My pain is like a river of tears, so full it fills the four oceans. Please call me by my true names, so I can hear all my cries and laughs at once, so I can see that my joy and my pain are one. Please call me by my true names so I can wake up, and so the door of my heart can be left open, the door of compassion. All right, now let's go into the questions. Go ahead and close your eyes for a moment. So what we'll do is take a moment of contemplation, and then I'll give you time to write your answer. So just for the next 30 seconds or so, let yourself consider, what are the gifts of surrender? What are the gifts of surrender? And letting them bubble up. And even allowing yourself to feel the answer somatically before even words show. That's another possibility. And now go ahead and take a minute or so to write down your notes about the gifts of surrender. Just about a minute. If you're watching this as a video, go ahead and pause the video. What are the gifts of surrender? Okay, so now the next inquiry question. Go ahead and close your eyes and take a moment to sense your answer before writing. So the next question is, in what ways do you resist surrendering? In what ways do you resist surrender? You can even take a moment and notice how the resistance feels in your body. And what it is about surrender that you're resisting. And then when you're ready, go ahead and start writing. And the question is, how do you resist surrender? And there might be many different ways that you resist surrender. So just take a minute and do some journaling on that. Go ahead and wrap up that final thought. You can come back to this question again if you want to take some more time with it. So the third question, I'm going to again invite you to close your eyes and just drop into your body, relax, and allowing sort of the initial answer to the question to come through a more somatic, a body knowing or an image. So this third question is, how might you cooperate with surrender? How might you cooperate? What would it take for you to cooperate with surrender? Maybe sensing some of the answer to that in your body. What would help you cooperate with surrender? Whenever you're ready, go ahead and journal. What would help you cooperate with the process of surrender? Take a minute or two to jot down your thoughts about that. So go ahead and wrap up that thought. And we're going to go into a bit more of a guided meditation. So take a moment to get yourself comfortable. And if you're comfortable closing your eyes, this would be a good time to close your eyes. At the end of this meditation, you'll have time to write down some notes about what emerged for you. So you don't have to record what's happening during the meditation itself. I'll give you some time at the end to take notes. So just go ahead and get comfortable, close your eyes. I'll start by helping us to relax and drop in. So taking a few deep breaths. Noticing your breathing. And the way in which breathing always only happens now. It helps us anchor into this current moment. And also anchor into the body. So letting yourself actually inhabit your body as opposed to observing it. See if you can let yourself actually be inside your body, inside your skin, inhabiting your body. And as you, to the best of your ability, inhabit, also giving your entire weight to the chair or cushion or bed or floor that's holding you up. You might notice places or the way in which you're holding yourself up. And see how much of your self-holding you can release. And allow the chair or cushion or bed or couch or floor to hold you, giving your weight to it. And ultimately, underneath that, you're giving your weight to beloved Mother Earth, who has always been holding you. So letting yourself be held. With the next few exhales, releasing any tension that you notice that's still in your body to the best of your ability. Some tension may not be ready to release, but whatever tension is ready to go ahead and release it with your exhales. Maybe noticing a quality of spaciousness in your body. Even if there might be a place that has tension, find the way in which there is spaciousness in your body too. And now softening your attention so that it's open and wide, and noticing the spaciousness around your body. Front, back, left, right, up, down. And feel the way in which that spaciousness actually permeates the walls and goes beyond the room. So without leaving your body, you stay inside your body. Sense the spaciousness that's inside your body and how it's the same as the spaciousness outside of your body. Spaciousness permeates everything, including your body, and you don't have to leave your body to know this. You can be inside your body and know this. If that's not working for you, don't worry about it. Just playing with embodiment and spaciousness at the same time, to the best of your ability. And whatever happens in this meditation, we can trust that's what needs to happen. So if I give you a prompt, you can follow the prompt, or if that's not where your energy is going, don't worry about it. Follow what feels right for you. So the reason that I first drop us into this embodied spaciousness is because it allows us to encounter surrender more deeply. It gives us capacity to go even further into surrender. So if you're going to do this on your own, I recommend taking the time to drop into embodied spaciousness first. So resting in this embodied spaciousness, I want you to think about something in your life that's really uncomfortable. You might have been trying to avoid it. but it's not going away. There's a way in which your back is against the wall. This situation is asking for your deep surrender. So take a moment and allow yourself to notice what this situation is. Choose one, or one will choose you. That's even better. Let it choose you. And knowing you can come back to this meditation another time if there are more than one pressing situations in your life. So choosing one or letting one choose you. Letting yourself fully apprehend this situation now. And by apprehend, I mean perceive. And by perceive, I mean all of your senses. So letting your whole organism take in and perceive this situation. Noticing how it shows up in your body, how your body responds to engaging the situation. What happens in your body as you take it in, as you open yourself up to the truth of it? You can also notice with your open and soft, spacious, embodied awareness, notice not only your physical reaction or response to the situation, but emotional. What's the emotional quality of your response? There might be a mental quality to your response. There might be some habitual thinking related to it. Now I invite you to notice, ask yourself, what is it about this situation that you don't want to be true? You wish it weren't true. So letting yourself feel and know and sense your resistance to the situation, the part of you that's saying no. Just taking a moment to notice the magnitude of the no. Even allowing the magnitude of the no, the resistance, to amplify. And in that amplification, what is the core? What is it at the core that's the most unbearable thing? The core of your resistance, what's the most unbearable thing about this? And to the degree you're able, let your heart bear that which is unbearable. In other words, let yourself burn right there in the simultaneity of the yes and the no. The no, I don't want this to be true, and the yes, this is the truth. And let your heart burn right in that intersection of the unbearability. And just taking a moment right here in embodied spaciousness and letting your heart be pierced by the unbearability of this simultaneous yes and no. The truth and the resistance to the truth. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. Just right here in the crucifixion of it. Resting in the crucifixion. If you don't like that word, ignore it. But resting in bearing the unbearable. And as you do that, maybe if this is helpful, you can imagine yourself being held by compassionate being who's wrapped around you, or just by pure divine love or whatever. If it's helpful to lean into something bigger that's holding you as you allow yourself to bear the unbearable, go ahead and allow that in, give that to yourself. It's not necessary, but it's a possibility. Now taking some deep breaths. You might notice the way in which your body has shifted a little since the beginning of the meditation. There might be maybe even more space, or there might be contraction. If there's contraction, just holding that with tremendous compassion and understanding, of course. And if there's a sense of expansion, let yourself occupy it. Inhabit the space that was created by not resisting, by opening. And notice the quality of that space that was created by surrendering deeply to the impossible unbearability. What's different now? Taking a moment to thank your body and your body's wisdom. All of this wisdom is in our bodies. And giving thanks to yourself for your courage to not turn away, but instead turn towards in this deeply undefended surrender into truth. Perhaps you can let yourself know what it is that needed to be surrendered. What was being asked to be surrendered? Often it's some form of innocence. It may or may not come, that's fine. But taking a moment just to notice or sense or allow to emerge what it is or was that you need to surrender, that this situation is asking you to surrender. Give up. What are you giving up? What has to be given up in order to encounter the truth more deeply? And thanking whatever emerged for you in this meditation, trusting that wherever you went, it was where you needed to go. Taking some deep breaths, bringing yourself back into this time, space, body, room. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes and take a moment to write down some notes from this inquiry. So, whatever you want to remember from what emerged for you, what it is you need to surrender, what you didn't want to admit. And wrapping up that last thought, knowing that you can take some more time to reflect on this at your convenience. So I'm going to, in closing, read, I guess you could call it a poem that emerged from a creative writing process that I did a couple days ago, actually a couple weeks ago. It's called Divine Humility. Take root in your grief. Root yourself way down, all the way down, and further still. All that shatters becomes soul gold. It's what you came here for, to feel and know and burn in the divine devastation. Angels fall from heaven to earth, not so they can just turn around and escape upward again, but rather to revel in darkness and density. So root deeper into the mud, the fecund rot, and the cold seeping aquifer beneath bedrock, which carries the current of our personal and collective evolution. Wrestle and roll in that muddy, bloody wallow and let yourself love the impossibly glorious mess of it. Let weeds cultivate chaos in your hair. Root yourself in these shattering imperfections and unbelievable horrors. Let your dress become soaked with blood and notice the dagger in your own hand. Nothing human is alien to you. Take root in these humbling lessons. Let them ferment and dissolve any illusions you might still have about superiority. Fall to the ground and stay down until mercy becomes the only word left on your lips. Until the only commitment you can make is to stop causing harm. There's no escape, only rolling up your sleeves, only tending the wounded like a battlefield nurse or a chaplain on death row. Bear witness to the deep and wide underbelly of humanity and become a sanctuary for truth and reality. Make remorse possible by withholding judgment and offering forgiveness. See yourself in each and every person and extend to them the healing generosity you yourself long for. Not being afraid of the dark allows you to serve the light. So I offer those words from a place of deep humility because those words came to me as my own instructions. So I'm in this with you. So may we be compassionate with ourselves. And may we notice the way in which light radiates from the heart of our capacity to bear witness without turning away. Blessings on your awakening and your activism. Bye for now.